Hello, Trekkies and Trekkers. Welcome to this amazing Star Trek podcast on Trek Tuesday. I'm your host, Dorinda, and I'm recapping every 2 weeks an episode of Star Trek TNG. Today we recap the episode Hollow Pursuits. But first, a note of the host of this podcast. I'm looking for a Trek friend who wants and has the time to recap every 2 weeks an episode of Star Trek with me. That also means I have decided to rename the podcast because Girls Talk Game Trek was something from me and Amanda. The podcast will now only be available on YouTube or on the Facebook group. If you are interested, please contact me. I would appreciate it if you like this video, subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends and family. And now for the plot of the episode. The Enterprise is in the process of transporting mycological biological tissues samples intended for use in combating an epidemic of Corleum fever on Nami 4. The transport of the samples is delicate, and when they find one of the samples containers is leaking, they are forced to destroy it to prevent the contamination of the other samples. LaForge tells Riker he is concerned that one of his engineers, Reginald Barclay, has been underperforming and notes that he is late to help with the sample transport. What LaForge does not recognize is that Barclay has been in the holodeck acting in a simulation of other Enterprise crew members, avoiding contact with their real counterparts. LaForge requests that Barclay be transferred from the Enterprise, but Picard recommends that LaForge take Barclay on as a pet project. LaForge works at supporting Barclay as their team works to investigate the failure of unconnected systems around the ship. Picard invites Barclay to a bridge meeting to review the investigation, but slips up and accidentally calls him Broccoli, a nickname given to him by Wesley Crusher, due to Barclay's tendency to fake out. Barclay later returns to the holodeck to seek refuge in the simulation version of the bridge members. In talking to LaForge, Guinan suggests that Barclay is simply imaginative and that LaForge keeps up more open mind towards him. On her advice, LaForge visits Barclay on the holodeck and discovers the exaggerated simulation of the bridge crew. LaForge suggests Barclay has counseling from Troy, whose counterpart on the holodeck displays clear signs of sexual attraction towards Barclay. Barclay attempts to undergo a real counseling session with Troy, but loses control when she tries to relax him with the appearance of actions his holodeck version of her would do, and ends the counseling session to flee back to the holodeck. When Barclay cannot be located to attend a briefing with Riker, Riker storms into the holodeck with LaForge and Troy to locate him. They find comical versions of the senior staff with bumbling versions of Picard and LaForge, a slothful idiot version of Wesley Crusher, and an extremely short comical version of Riker. Riker attempts to stop the program angrily, but Troy stops him, saying it might traumatize Barclay, and exploring this world can help them understand Barclay better. However, when they come across the sexual up version of her, it's her turn to want to immediately stop the program, but Riker stops her, sarcastically throwing her own words in her face. They finally locate Barclay sleeping in the lab of fantasy Dr. Crusher. Suddenly, the Enterprise may seriously accelerate to warp speed, and Riker, LaForge, and Barclay are go to the engineering to discover the matter-antimatter injector have jammed. The ship will continue to accelerate until its structural integrity collapses, unless the injectors are cleared. The team is unable to come up with any immediate solution that will work in the limited time they have. But Barclay realizes all the failures they have seen have been connected by a human element. A member of LaForge's engineering team has been present at each incident. So he summarized that somehow they became carriers of an undetectable contaminant. They quickly narrowed the field to the possibilities and determined that the one responsible for the system malfunction is Infidium, which had escaped from the leaking Mikolak sampled container. They are able to quickly repair the injectors, stop the ship, and set course for a nearby starbase to remove the rest of the Infidium contamination. LaForge commends Barclay of his contribution in saving the ship. Barclay returns one more time to the holodeck and addresses the simulation bridge crew, believing it best to leave them, and then delete all of his holodeck programs but one. So, I am going to rewatch this episode. I hope you do too, and then I will be back to recap it. Stay tuned, don't go away. Welcome back, everyone. I must say I like this episode, and this is the first episode we are getting to know Reginald Barclay. And as we know, he have, well, in one way he's special. And I have said before, he reminds me of myself, I'm different from everyone else. And that way to say of like a general person in society. But I don't know if you know it, and maybe you know it because I have mentioned it before, but Dwight Schultz, the actor of Reginald Barclay, was the first Star Trek celebrity I met. And of course, you know him also of the iconic role of Murdoch from the A-Team. And, well, I met Mr. Schultz at the Dutch Comic Con in the Netherlands. And he was there because there was some kind of an anniversary of the A-Team and Benedict Cumber, was it Cumberland that he called? The one who played Face. He was there as well, and there was someone else from the A-Team then, not BA, and also not. But I met him. I met Dwight Schultz, and I really liked him. He was very, and that was the first time I wore my Dr. Crusher outfit. It's not the same as Dr. Crusher. It's the science scanned, medical scanned, with the lab coat of Dr. Crusher. But I already had in mind to do a Dr. Crusher steampunk version. So I met him, and he made a comment about my little already steampunk hat, and he liked it. And I said that I wasn't in the process of that, and he was really nice. He is, and he's very cuddly. He hugged me for a couple of times. I can't. You know, that is. I was so overwhelmed to meet my first celebrity in real life. So I didn't say anything to him and whatever. But I did it to. Thank God I did it to Susan Plaxton and Denise Cosby because, like I said. Well, maybe you know it. I said, but when I was on the Snake Star Trek, they were sat next together, and I already played Star Trek Online at that time. But to Susan Plankton, I said, you are one of the most beautiful Klingon women that there is in Star Trek. And she mentioned to me, well, I didn't have to use my teeth as much. So Denise was laughing. Also, Marina was laughing as well because she was sitting next to Susie as well. So, and then I told Denise because no one was with Denise, and I said, Denise, thank you for lending your voice to Star Trek Online. I love Tasha. I love you as Denise as an actress, but I hate Sheila. By the time I played the Iconium War, the Iconium War, I wanted to murder her or shoot her. And also Denise Cosby laughed, and we had a little small talk before we had to go. And you know, it is so nice. And well, Dwight Schultz made this impression to me of. And I did thank him for something. And that was that he played those iconic roles. And that gave me hope. Because I am this different than people in society. It gave me hope to stay true to myself. And that was the lesson I always got from Barclay, and that everyone hates Barclay, but I don't. I like him. And it is like, I don't want to compare it directly with it, but it did give me the feeling like somebody who is autistic. And in that way, I see Barclay being autistic as well, because he has this imagination, and you know, I can understand why he is like that he had this program as a flight, because I had that too. I also had my fantasy world to go back to when I had a hard time in society, and my parents never understood that. They never wanted to believe what I was saying, but never mind. So we are in this first scene. We're seeing Barclay in the holodeck, and he is the big man. What is very weird to see, because we know that he never will be like that. And then we are in the space that where they going to transport the containers, and they find the leak. And the face of Riker to call Barclay broccoli because of Wesley made it funny to try to see how his crew members, his peers, think of Barclay. But there was this other episode as well of Barclay that he would become a intellectual person who also again saved the Enterprise again. Although there is a question on my mind right now. How did Dwight Schultz come to play in Star Trek? I can't remember what that was. I don't know if it was Whoopi Goldberg also. But that's just coming to mind. If you guys know it, let me know in the comment section. The next scene is that Geordi and Riker are in with Picard, and Barclay is getting a negative report, and Picard doesn't like it that he's getting a negative report because it is the Enterprise. So they talk about him, and I think that is what Picard is right. You know, everyone is moving on Barclay to just to get rid of him. They're not spending time with him to get to know him and why he is like that. And once again, it reminds me of somebody with autism. Not that, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against somebody with autism, but his whole reaction and how he's being, it reminds me of it. Did you guys see, by the way, that how young Dwight Schultz is in here? It's really, it's like he has been a baby face, you know? And it is nice to see that Geordi is actually trying to be friends with Reg and giving him a more positive way of dealing with him. Barclay is a bit overwhelmed that Geordi is asking him to be there with the briefing in the morning, and I think maybe that is just a bit overdoing because this will be a very stressful situation for Barclay. He is not really into, well, being around people, and I recognize it a bit of myself as well. I'm an introvert person, so being around people can be a bit much for me, but that's also in a spiritual way that I already have talked about a bit. But I can imagine that Barclay is saying not really, and he wants to prepare for it, etc., etc. And it does sound that he wants to and he tries to, but he can't be like everyone else, you know, being easy in contact with, other people. And I can understand that because I have the same, in a way. Geordi pays him a compliment and he is shocked. And I can imagine that because it's not often he gets compliments or being in center of attention. So Barclay is the subject of the whole ship, especially on the engineering team. And we are now in 10 forward and they're drinking something, and one of the members, we see Wesley, Data, one member, and Geordi having a drink, and So they are talking about Barclay, and so Data mention him about what nicknames are, etc. And Jodie saying, okay, name calling stops here, captain's order, and that's it. But then the glass of what the member has was leaking, and they are looking for what happened. And if you're coming back to everyone calling him Barclay, I do think the lesson here is that even the name calling, even nowadays, can hurt somebody very much. And a person like Barclay would be, and you see it in this episode, would be horrified that he's been bullied with the nickname and will not be in society or go with society as well as other people could. I must say I do recognize it because I have had it myself, and it's not always easy to call something or be bullied. And I don't want to say that you have to stand up, but it is more like words still hurts, and everyone knows that. Oops. So we are on the bridge now, and Barclay is coming with his theory, and everyone is keeping, they keep their mouth shut and how to say things, and it slips crying out loud the captain who called him broccoli. That must be horrifying. And yeah, okay. So LaForce is in 10 forward now, and he is complaining about Barclay against Guinan. And Guinan made a good point. And she gave him examples of how it was for her, and that other people need to be more open to Barclay and just help him to be at his best. And I mean, like, that he will be comfortable around them. And I think LaForge is getting the point now that what Barclay is doing, and in one way you could say Barclay will never fit in, but he is a damn good engineer. After the conversation with Guinan, Jodie is set off to find Barclay, and then he discovered the holodeck program of Reg, and oh dear. The face on Jodie's face when he saw that he was one of the Three Musketeers fighting Barclay, that was just funny. And in one way it's nice that they did it like in the sphere of the Three Musketeers, because I think that every boy would have that imagination that he was one of the Musketeers and just, fighting and boys things, etc., etc. So it is not completely weird that Barclay has this imagination and just want to be. He is the star of this holodeck program. When Jodie make himself known to Barclay that he is where he is, Barclay's of course very horrified, and in the next scene that they are in 10-4, where Barclay said, well, I am asking transfer to another ship because I don't belong here. And I think to his own surprise, Geordie said, well, that's not necessary, it's okay. Guinan sees them talking and bring LaForce a drink. And she was smiling because she knew what she told Geordie had a good impact on how he reacted and handled Barclay now. So now it is to the rest of the ship as well to have that same approach to Barclay. Barclay is having a counselor session with Troy right now, and she is trying to be this gentle to him, but he is very cautious because of course he has his own version of Diana Troy, and that is a very different version than the real Diana Troy. And there was one thing I do like about this episode with Counselor Troy is that she has this multiple changing in clothes. So I did like her first dress, the blue one, and a bit of showing the shoulders, and then of course we have her normal blue dress. And well, it is, Dwight Schultz is playing very good this character who he plays it very well, how people actually are feeling that way in how he is. And I think a lot of nerds can identify themselves with him because he's like that. We see now that Barclay made this program so he could blow steam with the normal daily interactions with the crew, but also to, I don't want to say learn about it, but it is more like he can cope with it more. And seeing Picard as a musketeer and all the other crews, that in one way it's very funny because it is like it reminded me a bit of that episode in Strange New World when they did this fantasy book episode. What was funny, I really liked it. But that is what the holodeck is for. You wind down, you play programs that you be in, like to be, and this character. And it is also, for example, the same for Picard when he plays his holo novel of Dixon Hill. Same thing. Oh dear, and then Rakishi himself, what makes him more irritable. And he wants to get Barclay right away. And, well, of course, Deanna says it can be harmful if you do it like this because it will be harmful for Barclay. It will shatter his trust, etc. And then Deanna sees herself as the goddess of empathy. And she is also very horrified. And then she knows what William of Riker is feeling, and he is being sarcastic as well then. And, well, one thing I can say, poor Barclay. When they finally find Barclay, he is lying on Dr. Crusher's lap and totally relaxing, well, sleeping in a way, because he worked too long on things and he had to wind down and he fell asleep. And then Picard called him to the bridge because there was something wrong with the antimatter, and the Enterprise could only be in warp, so this was very dangerous. And Barclay had to come too, so they did. And when they walked down, finally, Barclay talked with Geordi, and in the end, he said, well, it almost is like a hollow addiction. And then Geordi mentioned his addiction with the hologram of Leah Brahm, that he fell in love with it. But he knew when he had to shut it down. And so they talked a bit. They are in engineering. They try to figure out what they have to do. And we see that Barclay is, yes, right on his place. He belongs there. He knows things and sees things that other people don't. And that is what I'm talking about, of being different. And he also thinks that although he is very weird in having contact and coping with his fellow crew members, he still belongs there. And I think that is one of the reasons why also Troy is be more open and more like his, as we see in Voyager, etc., that she is still his counselor. And I think also that Geordi is liking him more than he used to. And I think that is one thing we know about certain characters. They link to each other. They have to be with each other to make something work. And I think Troy, LaForge, and Barclay is one of those three sums. And now I'm thinking about, of course we have Star Trek Picard now. It would be nice if they give him a cameo or whatever as well, to reunite them. But I also had said that with Wesley Crusher. It would be nice if Wesley Crusher had this a little role in Picard, have a little reunion with Picard and Crusher and, well, his half-brother Jack Crusher. And yeah, why not? The Enterprise is really in trouble now because they are going faster than warp 9.4, and they still have 12 minutes to go to reaching breach. And Picard is preparing to separate the saucer from the battle bridge, so that the families are safe. Barclay is coming with a solution and thinking that nobody is thinking of. So they made it out of there, closing the warp engine off in the nick of time, thanks to Barclay and LaForge. Even it was really nerve-wracking. And you could see that of Picard as well. And LaForge paid Barclay a compliment again. And I think that they did show us that at the moment that Barclay had to be there, he is there, and he is being very ingenious to come with solutions. And I think he always has. The only thing is that his skills with other people, that is one thing he has to work with. And I think after a while, he conquered that as well. So the Enterprise is going to Starbase 121 to check every system and determine it with the Invidium. What is, and then that's the great thing of Barclay. He has, and thanks to Barclay, Wesley also is getting his A game on, you know. But it would be nice if we really can see that Barclay has actually friends. And I thought that was in one of the movies, that the other Troy is visiting him and he has a cat, Neelix. And why really it reminded me of Data. And I think, you know, in one way I can identify myself with Barclay in that way, because I have more with animals than I have with people. That's why I always had to have a pet around me that you know, the pet is keeping me insane in a way. So, and I have the feeling that it is the same for Barclay. Barclay is going back to the whole deck again, and what the weird thing is he wants to take his leave, and if first you think it is really for the real crew, but it is just still a holodeck program, and he say his goodbyes for it, and he deletes the program. And you know, in one way it is a bit confusing, because there are moments that he is on the holodeck and you know exactly it is the holodeck program, but there are some of his holodeck program that is really simulated on real life. So that might be confusion. And that is the end of this episode, guys. Well, I liked it. I don't know how much you're liking it, so tell me that of course, in the comment section. And, well, if I'm looking at the rating of IMDb viewers, it's like a 7.7. I think I could give it an 8, because it is a really nice episode, and a Barclay episode, and that's what I was saying to you guys a lot of times since season 8. They are writing more for characters, and instead of just being Star Trek and explore. And I think that is one thing I really like about TNG, is that they did this. They did the backgrounds, and they did especially episodes for certain characters, and that makes TNG fun. So, tell me what you would rate this episode, and of course, what do you think of this episode? And I would love to hear about your feelings and theory about Barclay. And like I said, it reminds me of somebody who has autism. What do you see about that? And well, yeah, let us say maybe we can have a nice discussion about it. So thank you guys for listening, and join me in 2 weeks for a new episode recap. In the next episode we will recap the episode The Most Toys. I also have 2 other podcasts, namely the Orenda Talks podcast, which is some kind of a geek podcast wherein I talk about books, movies, series, other video games, and other geek things, but also a lot of Star Trek. And of course the Dutch Ready Room podcast that is in my native language, Dutch. And you can find both of them on YouTube and Facebook. And of course the Orinda Talks podcast is also to find on Spotify, Anchors, Google Podcast and Amazon Music. I will see you in 2 weeks. Live long and prosper.